All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another deep dive with us. We are looking at Further and Better's global TV, film, and media industry news roundup. This one's dated March 4th, 2025. And let me tell you, there is some juicy stuff in here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's like a whole new theory about how to spend money on content,
Hmm.
a really different take on Agatha Christie,
Interesting.
and maybe some drama brewing in the Spider-Man universe.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Sounds like we've got a lot to unpack. Let's put on our, insider hats.
Yeah, our decoder rings.
Decoder rings, yeah, and see what's really going on.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start with TV trends.
Okay.
Discovery's international CEO, JB Perrett, is calling his new content strategy the TV dumbbell theory.
That's a catchy name.
It is, right?
I like it. So what's the idea?
Okay, so he's basically saying, forget about the middle ground when you're thinking about how much to spend on shows.
Okay.
You either go all in on a few like super high quality premium shows,
Yeah.
or you just churn out tons and tons of like super cheap content.
So it's like a strategic kind of choosing your extremes.
Yeah, exactly. No more in between.
Makes you think about Lachlan Murdoch's recent announcement about Fox's new streaming platform. They're starting small with subscribers, really leaning on sports and news.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So are we already seeing the TV dumbbell theory in action?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Is Fox maybe planning to drop some huge budget originals later to balance that out?
It's totally possible. Maybe that's how they're gonna like carve out their own space in this crazy crowded streaming world.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. But then you contrast that with this whole like rise of the creator sphere, I think they called it.
Yeah.
Apparently it's like $1 trillion industry now.
It's insane, especially when you see like, traditional media kind of shrinking a little bit.
Right, exactly. And it makes you wonder, like, what does this mean for the future of entertainment in general?
Right. Like, remember when everyone thought YouTube was just for like cat videos and stuff?
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's so different now. You have individual creators with huge followings pulling in serious money. And look at Mr. Beast.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of millions of subscribers on YouTube. And now he's launching his own food brands. It's crazy.
That's a really good example. That's huge. So do you think traditional companies can like keep up, or are they going to get left behind?
It's a good question. It seems like some of them are adapting, embracing these new platforms and creators.
Yeah.
But others, I don't know, they might struggle. This report mentions a bunch of companies making strategic hires
Oh, right.
to beef up their, presence in new markets, which maybe means they're trying to get ahead of the curve.
Okay, let's hope so. Okay, let's move on to something totally different. Intriguing productions. The BBC is adapting Agatha Christie's Towards Zero. But, and this is the crazy part, there's no murder in the first episode.
Whoa, hold on. Really?
Yeah.
That's so different.
Isn't that wild?
That's a huge change. I wonder if they're trying to, like, get a new audience.
Yeah.
Who maybe think that the classic murder mystery is, I don't know, a little too predictable.
Yeah. Maybe they just need a little something different to get them hooked. It's definitely getting people talking. And then there's Song versus Dance from Japan.
Okay.
Singers and dancers battling it out in a competition format.
Oh, wow.
Sounds like it's made for going viral.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me, though, is that it focuses on social media stars.
Oh, yeah.
It shows how those platforms are becoming more and more important to the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
They're not just for, promoting stuff anymore.
Right.
They're where the talent is and the inspiration. It's really cool to see.
So, like, is this the start of something big, like a global phenomenon?
I think it could be. I can totally see this format taking off internationally.
Okay, let's switch gears to something a little darker. Prime Video's got this new thriller, The Assassin. It's filmed in Greece, starring Keely Hawes and Freddie Highmore.
Oh, those are some big names.
I know, right? And apparently filming those action scenes in that intense Greek heat was brutal.
Oh, man, those behind-the-scenes stories are always fascinating.
I know, right?
You get to see how much work goes into these productions.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Imagine trying to do, like, crazy stunts in that heat.
Oh, I'd be melting.
Must have been so demanding.
Talk about dedication. And then we've got this trend that's been picking up steam. Streaming platforms adapting Bible stories.
Interesting.
Amazon has House of David, which sounds like a huge production.
Yeah.
And then Netflix is doing Nobody Wants This, which sounds a little more lighthearted.
Okay.
So what do you think? Are we seeing a shift in, like, the cultural landscape? Are people more interested in faith and spirituality now? Or are studios just, like, realizing that these stories can appeal to a huge global audience.
Maybe it's a bit of both. You know, these stories have been around forever.
Right.
There's obviously something timeless about them. And maybe these new adaptations are just a way to reconnect with those themes in a way that feels fresh and engaging.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. But we can't ignore the industry shakeups. Sony Pictures has a new CEO, Ravi Ahuja, and he's dealing with some underperforming intellectual property, especially those Spider-Man spin-offs.
Oh, right. I've heard about that.
Yeah, like, remember those villain-centric movies like Venom?
Yeah,
They didn't all do great at the box office.
they didn't. So you think Sony might be moving away from that model?
It's possible.
Yeah.
What if they focus on those Spider-Man variants and multiverse storylines that everyone loves?
Oh, I would be surprised. The multiverse opens up so many possibilities. They could really explore characters like Spider-Gwen or even Miles Morales.
Oh, I would love to see that.
That would be amazing.
Okay, now let's talk about Nkechi Okoro Carroll, the showrunner of All American. Her show is the only scripted one left on the CW after Nexstar took over.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Can you imagine being in that position?
What a tough spot to be in. But what really strikes me about her is her resilience
Right.
to deal with all that uncertainty, but still, stay true to her creative vision. It's impressive.
It's so inspiring, right? She's making the shows she believes in, and that's powerful.
Absolutely.
And speaking of shakeups, Sky's director of original film, Julia Stewart, is leaving after almost 20 years.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
I know, right? She's been there forever.
Her leadership has really shaped, Sky's film offerings for so long. It'll be interesting to see what they do now.
Totally agree. And then on top of that, this report mentions a bunch of other executive moves. It just shows you how dynamic this industry really is.
It really is. It's like a constant game of chess. People moving, strategies changing.
It's always something new.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so fascinating to follow.
Okay, so let's wrap up this part of our deep dive with something a bit lighter. New formats and development. Lifetime is coming out with a reality show called A Sorority Mom's Guide to Rush.
Oh my gosh, that sounds
Yeah.
that sounds intense.
Right. I have a feeling it's going to be a hit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And reality TV just seems to grab our attention no matter what.
I know, it's like a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then for something completely different, there's this Swedish game show called Nation's Dumbest.
Nation's Dumbest. Okay.
Yeah, where celebrities compete for that, for that honor.
Oh, that sounds hilarious.
I know, right? And actually, this report lists a ton of other new shows and adaptations that are in development. It's crazy how much creativity there is in this industry.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's always something new and exciting on the horizon.
And that's just a taste of what's happening in the entertainment world right now.
There's so much more to explore, so much to talk about. Like, we should dive into some of the financial strategies shaping the industry in part 2.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so we've talked about how much money is flowing around the entertainment industry, especially with the creator sphere exploding. But what about the companies actually making those big bets on content?
Well, there's some pretty interesting things happening on that front. The report highlights this Finnish investment fund, IPR.VC, and they've been shaking things up in Europe.
Yeah, I read about them. They're working with some big names like A24 and XYZ Films, but their whole approach is different, right?
Yeah, exactly. So instead of funding, one movie at a time, they're investing in like whole slates of projects.
Right, like a whole bunch at once.
Yeah, and they're taking a much more strategic long-term view. They're building these partnerships and fostering collaboration. It's almost like they're creating mini studios within the industry.
That's pretty cool. Do you think that model could become more common?
It's possible. I mean, it allows for more diverse stories and maybe less risk, especially when you're working with companies that already have a good track record.
Makes sense. And of course, you've got the streaming giants continuing to expand globally. It seems like every week there's a new platform launching or a big company making a strategic hire to get into a new region.
It's true. The streaming wars are far from over. For example, Warner Bros. Discovery is bringing in some executives with a lot of experience in international markets. It's clear they're trying to grow their reach and compete on a global scale.
So many platforms, so much content. It's hard to keep up. I guess it's a good problem to have, as a viewer.
Right.
But for those companies, it must be intense.
It's a constant fight for attention. For subscribers, they need to find ways to stand out, to offer something unique and compelling that keeps people coming back.
For sure. Okay, let's get back to the content itself for a minute. We were talking about some of those intriguing productions earlier, and I'm still thinking about the BBC's Agatha Christie adaptation, Towards Zero. And that choice to not show the murder in the first episode.
Oh, yeah. It's such a bold move. I think it's really clever, though. It creates so much suspense and mystery right from the start.
I love that.
You're constantly wondering who the victim's going to be, and that just keeps you hooked.
Totally. It's like they're playing with our expectations of the genre, but
Yeah.
we still get all those classic Christie elements that we love.
Exactly. And then there's song versus dance, which is just pure fun. I mean, the concept is so simple, but so universally appealing. Singers against dancers. Who doesn't love that?
It's true. Everyone gets it. I'm really curious to see how they use social media stars in the format, though.
Me too. It could be a great way to connect with the younger audience, people who are really plugged into those platforms.
It's a sign of the times, for sure. Social media is so powerful now. It's not just about marketing. It's about finding new talent and really shaping cultural trends. Speaking of shaping cultural trends, let's talk about those Bible adaptations for a minute. Amazon's House of David sounds huge. Are they going for like a Game of Thrones vibe with all the political drama and everything?
It seems like it, yeah. And then you have Netflix's Nobody Wants This, which sounds much lighter. It's interesting to see such different approaches.
I know, right? It makes you wonder if this trend reflects a bigger cultural shift. Are people looking for stories that deal with faith and spirituality? Or are studios just realizing how much potential those stories have to resonate with a global audience?
It's a great question. I mean, these stories have been around for centuries, right?
Yeah.
There's obviously something timeless about them. So maybe these new adaptations are just a way to reconnect with those themes, but in a fresh and engaging way.
It's definitely something to think about. Okay, let's move on to those industry shakeups we were discussing earlier. I'm curious to hear what you think about Sony maybe shifting away from those villain-centric Spider-Man films. Do you think they could be successful focusing on the multiverse storylines and all those Spider-Man variants?
Honestly, I think it's a smart move. The multiverse has been so popular with audiences, and there are so many characters and stories they could explore. Like Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2099. They could create a whole interconnected cinematic universe just within the Spider-Man franchise.
That would be awesome.
Wouldn't it?
And then there's Nkechi Okoro-Carol. She's the only one left standing with the scripted show on the CW. What's your take on her story?
I just admire her so much, her resilience, her determination. It can't be easy to navigate such a crazy industry and still stay true to her vision.
Absolutely. It's really inspiring. It shows that passion and perseverance can really make a difference, even when things are uncertain.
For sure.
And we can't forget about Julia Stewart leaving Sky. After so many years, it's a big loss for them.
It is. She played such a key role in building their film slate.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what direction they take now and who steps up to fill her shoes.
It just goes to show you how quickly things can change in this industry. There's always something happening, a new story unfolding.
That's part of what makes it so exciting. It's a constantly evolving landscape full of surprises and challenges.
Absolutely. Okay, let's wrap up this part of our deep dive with something a little lighter. We talked about some of the new shows in development, like Lifetime's A Sorority Mom's Guide to Rush and Sweden's Nation's Dumbest. It seems like there's a never-ending stream of creative content out there.
It really does, and it's amazing. It shows you how much imagination and talent there is in this industry. There's always something new to discover and a new story waiting to be told.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, so that's it for part 2 of our deep dive. We've covered a lot, from financial trends to the global expansion of streaming and even those fascinating new shows that are coming out.
Yeah, but we're not done yet. In part 3, we'll talk about what all this means for the future of entertainment. It's going to be a fascinating discussion.
Okay, so we've really dug into a lot in this deep dive. Everything from like the big global trends to specific shows, even some of those industry shakeups.
Definitely a lot to think about.
I know, right? So now, the big question. What does all of this mean for the future of entertainment? Where are we headed?
It's a great question to consider, really. I mean, we've seen so much change in such a short time, and it feels like everything's moving even faster now.
Right.
One thing that really stands out to me, though, is, well, that incredible growth of the creator sphere,
Yeah, for sure.
Individual creators are building these huge audiences, challenging the old ways of doing things, and they're influencing culture in a way we haven't really seen before.
It is really empowering in a way, right? Like the old gatekeepers are kind of losing their grip, and anyone with a good idea and some hustle can find an audience.
Exactly.
But then the question becomes, with so much content out there, how do you stand out? What's the secret sauce?
Ah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
I think authenticity is a big part of it.
Okay.
Audiences can smell a phony a mile away.
Yeah.
They want to connect with real people, people who are passionate about what they're doing.
So, like, not just trying to be the next big thing.
Exactly. Think about the creators who've really made it, the ones who've had a real impact. They're just being themselves, sharing their stories, connecting with people on a personal level.
You're right. People crave that realness. And maybe like a bit of quirkiness too, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, think about that Swedish game show we talked about, Nation's Dumbest.
Oh, right.
It's so out there, but it works because it's just embracing that, you know?
Absolutely. Sometimes just being yourself, even if it's a little absurd, can be the best strategy. It's all about finding your own niche, your own voice.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, say someone's out there like dreaming of making it big in entertainment. What advice would you give them?
Hmm. Well, I think the most important thing is to create stuff you love, stuff you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Because that passion, it's contagious.
Right.
If you're not excited about it, your audience won't be either. And don't be afraid to fail. Try new things, experiment, find what works for you. And the best part is you don't need anyone's permission anymore. Just put your work out there and see what happens.
Yeah, it's about taking those risks,
For sure.
putting yourself out there, and remembering that success doesn't happen overnight.
No, definitely not.
It takes time, it takes dedication. Like, look at Nkechi Okoro Carroll.
Oh, yeah. She's a great example.
Her show being the only scripted one left on the CW, that's got to be tough, but she's not giving up. Her passion, her determination, it's really inspiring.
It really is. She's committed to her craft no matter what's thrown at her. And I think that's a great lesson for anyone in this business.
Totally.
This industry stuff.
No doubt.
But if you're really passionate about it, it's worth it.
Okay, so big picture. Is the future of entertainment bright? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's incredibly exciting, actually. We're seeing new voices emerge, new stories being told, new ways of reaching people.
Yeah.
The lines between traditional media and the digital world, they're getting blurrier and blurrier. It creates this really dynamic, ever-changing landscape. It's a wild ride. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me neither. It's been awesome exploring all of this with you. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of entertainment.
The pleasure was all mine, really. Until next time, keep those screens glowing and keep those creative sparks flying.
And remember, everyone, the future of entertainment, it's in your hands. Go out there and make something amazing.